Okay, let's get into our little half pint, our little gnome. So let's see, colors are going to be white, yellow, red, black, and the dark, well, actually, both blues. So you're going to use most yellow and white, and then very little of the blues. So, okay, let's get into this. I just carved out looks like a 10 by 20 on a regular size canvas. You're going to be painting this on the 10 by 20 skinny canvases. You are going to want to use probably a big square to do the background, larger areas, probably a smaller square, either this one or the really tiny small square, and then a little round. Okay. So where you're going to start is I would have them, let's see, you could probably use orange chalk. And what you're going to do is have them carve out the stone, the little blarney stone, okay? So we're going to have them draw that in. And then we're going to paint the upper part a very pale, pale yellow. So mostly white, a little bit of yellow. Doesn't really matter how they paint this in. They can paint it in up and down or side to side, whatevs. And then they'll paint in the stone. So for the stone, I like to mix up some of the black a little bit of black, some of the dark blue, so it's kind of a grayish or like a bluish black, and then just a touch of white, so it takes it down to more of a gray. And I kind of want to make it a little lumpy and bumpy. And we'll take a break. Let it dry. I'm just going to blow dry mine. I went pretty yellow. You could have them go a little bit more pale than that, more of like a buttery color. Otherwise, they might have a hard time getting the other colors to cover this. Let's see. I don't have orange chalk here at my house, so I'm just going to do this with my colored pencil. Okay, so you're gonna leave a little gap. The nose is gonna be just about half canvas. Okay. And then I pull, I don't know if you can see that, deepen up my lines a little bit. Then you're gonna have them pull the beard out from the side of the nose and bring it down. I don't finish it off down here because this is where the mug is going to be. So from here, we've got our nose. I'm gonna come right up underneath the nose and make a line just sort of mimicking that shape. And then we're just gonna pull down the glass down into the rock. They can do a big, big mug, or they can do a smaller little mug. I know it's probably hard for you to see that. So there's our mug, our pint, our pint. I want it a little bit wider at the top than at the bottom. Okay. And then out from the side of that mug and out of the side of the beard right here, we're just going to bring a little line up. Has a little square tip for his shoe. And then you can bring like in a little heel. I don't know if you can see that. So there's the shoes. Then right here where the beard comes out, we're just going to bring out the sides of the hat. Give him a big old hat. And for the top of it, I just like to have them draw a straight line, just kind of come right out of the middle of that nose. Bring the width of it out, just a little T. And then they're just gonna bring it right back down on either side. Like so. We're so stinking cute. Okay, then it's gonna get a nice big top right here. And the buckle. Okay, that's the sketch. Pretty simple. And now all they gotta do is fill her in. So let's start with the light green area right here. So this is where you'll use like a smaller little brush, square. And we're gonna make up a nice bright green. So I'm gonna use my bright blue, yellow, and since we're painting right over the top of yellow, it should cover pretty nicely. I'm gonna add just a little bit of like that buttery, really pale yellow. Right in the center there to give it a little highlight. Right in the like right hand side there. And right on the side right there. That way we get a little highlight. Then we're gonna work on the top part of the hat. So I'm going to use my blue and yellow, dark blue and yellow, and just a baby touch of black. So it's really dark, dark. And we're gonna work right down to that light green. Right up over that buckle. So they're gonna have to be kind of careful on this part. I'm making a mess. I'm gonna have to switch over to my little brush. I'm trying to do this on a tiny, tiny little 8x10. So I'll just switch over to my little brush just to clean up those edges. You can have them do the same thing. And it might take a couple coats to get the coverage. Otherwise, some of that yellow might peek out. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the brim. Okay. Okay, so once the hat's done, what I'm gonna have us do is skip down to the pint glass, and we're gonna go back in with some of that really pale, pale yellow. We're gonna start from the bottom, and we're gonna try to cover up that rock. We're gonna do a little thin coat right there. Can let that dry. I'm getting gray in there. Just wondering maybe if we shouldn't do the rock. Do the rock around everything else, because this is making a mess. So like when I started, maybe just do everything yellow and just chalk this in. Don't paint it in. We'll paint it in later, so sorry. Kind of forgot about that. I'm gonna dry this. Okay. I'm just going to carry on with the beard. So I'm going to make a nice bright orange. And just fill that in nice and heavy. So I'd probably do the beard, and then I would bring some orange in up here, streak that in towards the top of this mug. And then you can use the pale yellow. Blend that up. So those two colors blend together. Looks like that beard's reflecting through the glass. I'm gonna have to do another layer over the top of that. It's just two. I'm gonna let that set for just a sec. So I would say at this point is where you could have them fill in after you get the beer glass in there. Then you could have them fill in the stone, and that's kind of the gray shade, and then you could have them do these shoes in straight black. I hate this paintbrush. I bought it at Michael's. It's just disappointing. There's a little shoe. Okay, there's little shoes. I'm going to just deepen up that yellow a bit. Just gonna add a bit of my yellow, a little bit more yellow to the orange, just so it gets a little bit more warm yellow, and come in and go over that buckle. I'm gonna highlight that green just a bit more. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more white to that bright green. Do a nice little, maybe just use white. A little highlight, highlight, highlight. And then the nose. So the nose is going to be mostly white. a tiny amount of red and just a tiny amount of yellow. Okay, so everything at this point should be painted in. I'm just going to put a little bit more orange in here. And then I would say this would be a good time to take another break. You could have them go ahead, like if they wanted to do another thin coat on top of their tall part of the hat, they could do that and then take another break. That way this is dry when they get back. I'm gonna flip this over. Oh poop, look what I just did. All right. So yeah, this would be a good time to take a second break, let everything dry, and then when you come back, you'll do all the little details. That's not dry yet. Okay, so details. He's got a little 4-leaf clover coming up and out the side of his hat. Honestly, like, you might have to give him white and orange chalk, because I think if they draw this with, I don't know if they'll be able to draw it with orange chalk and if it'll look good. We'll see. I'm gonna try it. So 4-leaf clover. We're just gonna do 4 hearts is basically what you're gonna do. You're gonna do a heart, a skinny heart. Skinny heart. A skinny heart. And a skinny heart. So I would start there because this is probably going to need a couple coats. So you're going to want to make your light green again and add some white to it. Buster, that is enough. I'm going to go put you in your kennel, dude. Okay, so a nice pale green. You can just put that brush down and pull towards that center. I loathe this paintbrush. It's too soft. Oh, my clove looks a little retarded. Looks really retarded. I'm wondering maybe if I should make a little stencil for that. Okay. So that's on there. We'll add some highlights here in a little bit to it. Let's work on, let's just kind of work down. So I'm going to add a little highlight to our buckle. So at the very top of this buckle, I'm just going to add a little highlight with white and a little bit of highlight down the side. Just little broken lines, doesn't have to be outlined. I might even hit those sides again. Okay. I'm going to add a little highlight to the brim of the hat. Buster, that's enough. And then I'm going to work on the nose just a bit. So I'm going to add a little bit, I've still got a little bit of that nose color. I'm going to add a little bit more red just to deepen up the color, and a little bit more yellow. And they can take that and run that on the underside, on the bottom side of the nose. And then they can use their finger to help blend out that hard line just by running their finger in a little circle. Okay. And then the top of the nose is going to get a little bit of a highlight. Always starting to come alive. Okay, so I'm gonna make like a shadow color that's gonna go right underneath here. So I'm gonna use some of the red, some of the yellow, and just a touch of the blue, of the dark blue. That'll give kind of a brown, rusty shade. And you're gonna be painting bigger, so you could probably use the little flat brush for this. I'm gonna have to use the little round because it's just too tiny, but you can come underneath this nose and make a nice shadow.
This is the moment that Brian gave me away to my husband. I love this so much because that was the first time.
I'm gonna kind of blend it. You can blend it down. I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow. And I'm just gonna pull some shadow down. Just want this to be really nice and shadowed on the sides and at the top here. Maybe a little bit down throughout there. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna make just some standard orange again. And this is going to come right over the top. You can have them use the little brush if they want, or they can use the little flat, little round or little flat. But this is where they can start pulling out some hairs. Probably should have pulled some out earlier. I'm gonna take that deep dark color. I'm gonna take a little bit of that darker color and pull out some hairs from the side. Otherwise it doesn't look like it's all together. Okay, so I'm using that rusty, shadowy color. I'll leave that alone for just a little bit. I'm just gonna kind of come in and deepen up the beer glass reflection. Okay, let's leave that alone. I'm gonna come back up. So we've worked all the way down here. Now I'm just gonna come back up to the clove. I'm gonna mix up a little bit of that yellow and white. It's too bright. And just add a little bit of highlight in some of those. Come back into my orange. Just gonna kind of do a little glaze over some of that deep rust color. I've got a lot of different colors meeting and greeting right now. I'm just wondering if maybe when you do the beard, to go ahead and use that dark rust when you very first paint in the beard. Use that dark rust and put in those little hairs and everything. So this is dry because what we're dealing with now is that this has got to dry before we can do the foam and all of that. So, oh boy. Do the hat, do this, do the hat, do this. Come in, do the beard, but pull in those little lines and do that dark shadow. Add that dark shadow and those dark edges in there. And then when you're doing the beer glass and everything, you could have them come in and glaze that. That way, when you take the break, this is all dry. You can come back, do the clove, do all your little highlights, and that way when you get down here, this is dry, and you can work on the beer. Otherwise, they're gonna end up with like brown, which just won't look good. Okay, so I'm gonna blend up. I'm gonna start working on that beer glass and the foam. So I'm gonna mix some of the dark blue and white. This will be the base. And we're gonna come in, maybe I'll use the little brush for this. I'm gonna come in and put in that foam. And we're gonna come down the sides of the glass. To the bottom of the glass. And then you could bring in, have some of that foam. Pouring over. And then after you get the blue in there, then you can start playing with your straight white. So you could use that flat brush to pull down some of those little reflection lines in the glass. And do skinny ones. like so. And then very, very last, you just come back over the top of your blue and add a couple highlights with white. Let some of that blue show. And then you can take some of that white and make some little bubbles over here. Some little round circles. And you can highlight or shadow the bottom to make it look like a bubble. And I believe that's it. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. All right. This is pretty stinking cute. So, all right, have fun with this one. Let me know if you have any questions.